Dr. Vell had spent 40 years studying the biology of species across the galaxy. He had seen creatures with 6 legs, beings made of living crystal, and life forms that breathed methane instead of oxygen. Nothing surprised him anymore, or so he thought. The message came on a quiet morning aboard the Galactic Research Station. Vell was drinking his 3rd cup of stimulant tea when his computer made a soft beeping sound. He put down his cup and read the message twice. Then he read it a 3rd time. New species classification required. Priority level, high. Species name, humans. Origin, planet Earth, Sol system. Vell leaned back in his chair. Humans. He had heard stories about them. They had appeared in galactic space only 20 years ago. A young species, barely out of their own solar system. The reports said they were friendly. Peaceful. They wanted to trade and learn. He pulled up the attached files and looked at the images. The humans had soft skin without scales or armor, no claws on their fingers, no sharp teeth. Their eyes were small and positioned on the front of their face. They walked on 2 legs and had thin bodies with very little muscle compared to most species. Vell made a small sound of understanding. Prey species. Obviously. Everything about their appearance screamed vulnerability. They looked like the Lorani, those gentle herbivores who spent their days eating grass and running from shadows. Or maybe like the Fen, the small furry creatures who lived in underground tunnels and feared everything. He typed a note into his file. Initial observation suggests prey classification. Will confirm with DNA analysis. The station commander, a large reptilian named Goss, called Vell to his office later that day. Goss sat behind a metal desk covered with data tablets and empty food containers. He was eating something that looked like raw meat when Vell entered. "You got the assignment?" Goss asked without looking up. "Yes, Commander. The humans." Goss finally raised his yellow eyes. "The Council wants a full biological report. They need to know where these creatures fit in the galactic food chain. Are they prey? Are they predators? Can they be trusted?" Vell nodded. "Based on their physical appearance, I would guess they are prey, probably herbivores or maybe omnivores who eat small insects." "Don't guess," Goss said sharply. "The Council does not pay you to guess. They pay you to know. A human diplomatic ship will arrive tomorrow. You will collect samples and run your tests. I want facts." "Yes, Commander." The human ship arrived the next morning. It was a small vessel, painted white and blue. Vell watched from the observation deck as it docked with the station. The design was simple, no weapons that he could see. Another sign of a prey species. What predator would travel without weapons? He went down to the docking bay to meet them. 3 humans walked out of the ship. 2 of them wore simple gray uniforms. The 3rd wore something more colorful, a dark blue outfit with gold buttons. The one in blue stepped forward and smiled. Her teeth were flat and white, not sharp at all. Vell felt his theory was correct. "Hello," she said. Her voice was soft and warm. "I am Ambassador Yuna. Thank you for welcoming us to your station." Vell studied her face. She had dark hair that fell past her shoulders and eyes that were almost black. Her skin was smooth and pale. She looked fragile, like she might break if someone touched her too hard. "I am Dr. Vell," he replied. "I am the chief biologist here. I have been asked to study your species." Yuna nodded. "Yes, we were told. We are happy to help. What do you need from us?" "Blood samples," Vell said. "Hair samples, saliva, basic biological material." "Of course." She did not hesitate. She did not ask why or show any fear. Vell found this strange. Most prey species became nervous when asked for biological samples. They worried about being studied, being hunted. But Yuna just smiled and followed him to his laboratory. The 2 other humans came as well. One was a tall male with short black hair. His name was Tay. The other was a female with her hair tied back in a tight knot. Her name was Hana. Both of them were quiet and polite. They sat in the chairs Vel offered and waited patiently. Vel collected the samples quickly. He took blood from each of them. He collected hair and saliva. He even took small skin samples. Through it all, the humans remained calm. They made small conversation with each other in their own language. Sometimes they laughed softly. "Your species seems very relaxed," Vel observed. Yuna looked at him with those dark eyes. "Should we be nervous?" "Most species are nervous during biological examinations." She tilted her head slightly. "We have nothing to hide, Dr. Vel. We are just humans, simple creatures from a small planet. Study us all you want." There was something in her voice that Vel could not identify. It was not fear. It was not even confidence exactly. It was something else, something that made him feel slightly uncomfortable. He pushed the feeling aside. He was a scientist. He dealt in facts, not feelings. After the humans returned to their ship, Vel took the samples to his main laboratory. His assistant, a small gray being named Ro, was waiting for him. "Are those the human samples?" Ro asked eagerly. "Yes. We will begin analysis immediately." Ro looked at the vials of blood with wide eyes. "What do you think they are? Predator or prey?" Vel set up his equipment with practiced hands. "Prey. Obviously. Look at them. Soft skin. No natural weapons. Friendly behavior. They are probably the most harmless species in the galaxy." Ro nodded in agreement. "They do seem very gentle." Vel placed the first sample into the analyzer. The machine hummed as it began to work. Numbers and patterns appeared on his screen. He watched them scroll past, waiting for the results that would confirm his theory. "This should be simple," he said to himself. "Compare their DNA to known prey species. Find the matches. Write the report. Easy." He had no idea how wrong he was. The analyzer worked through the night. Vel checked the progress several times before going to sleep. Everything seemed normal. The machine was breaking down the human DNA strand by strand, comparing it to the database of known species. By morning, the first results would be ready. Vel slept peacefully that night. He dreamed of nothing important. He had no way of knowing that his entire understanding of the universe was about to change. He had no way of knowing that those soft, smiling humans carried something in their blood that would terrify the entire galaxy. He was about to discover that not everything that looks like prey is actually prey. Some things just choose to look that way. The morning light filled the laboratory with a soft blue glow. Vel woke up early, eager to see the results of his analysis. He walked quickly through the quiet corridors of the station, his 4 legs clicking against the metal floor. Ro was already waiting in the laboratory. The small gray assistant looked tired. His large eyes had dark circles under them. "Did you sleep here?" Vel asked. "I could not sleep," Ro admitted. "I kept thinking about the humans. Something about them bothers me." Vel waved his hand dismissively. "You are being paranoid. They are just prey animals who learned to build ships. Nothing more." He walked over to the analyzer and pulled up the results on his screen. The first comparison had been completed during the night. Human DNA versus Lorani DNA. The Lorani were classic prey, gentle herbivores who lived in large herds and spent their days eating plants. Vel expected to see at least a 60% match. Most prey species shared common genetic markers, fear responses, herd instincts, submission behaviors. These were written into DNA like words in a book. The screen displayed the result, 0% match. Vel blinked. He read the number again, 0%. Not even one shared marker with the Lorani. "That cannot be right," he muttered. He ran the comparison again. The machine hummed and processed the data. A few minutes later, the same result appeared, 0% match. Ro looked over his shoulder. "What does it say?" "It says there is no genetic similarity between humans and Lorani, not a single shared prey marker." "Maybe the Lorani are too different. Try another species." Vel nodded. That made sense. The Lorani were plant eaters. Maybe humans were a different kind of prey. He loaded the next comparison. Human DNA versus Fen DNA. The Fen were small, timid creatures who lived underground. They were afraid of everything. Their DNA was full of fear responses and hiding instincts. The result came back. 0% match. Vel felt his stomach tighten. This was strange. Very strange. He ran more comparisons. Human DNA versus the Mira, a species of peaceful swimmers. 0% match. Human DNA versus the Bowl, fat creatures who spent their lives eating and sleeping. 0% match. One by one, he compared human DNA to every prey species in the database. 12 species in total. 12 different types of prey animals from across the galaxy. Every single comparison came back the same. 0% match. This is impossible, Vel said. His voice was quiet. They have to match something. Every species matches something. Ro looked worried. Maybe there is an error in the samples. Maybe they were contaminated. Vel considered this. Yes. That had to be the answer. Something was wrong with the samples. He would need to collect new ones. But first, he wanted to look more closely at the human DNA itself. He pulled up the raw data and began to examine it piece by piece. What he saw made no sense. The human genetic code was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was complex, incredibly complex. Layers upon layers of information packed into every strand. Some sections looked old, very old, like they had been passed down for millions of years. Other sections looked newer, still changing and adapting. He found markers for strong muscles, markers for fast healing, markers for high endurance. These were not the genes of a prey animal. Prey animals were built to run and hide. These genes were built for something else entirely. Then he found something that made him stop breathing. Buried deep in the human DNA was a sequence he recognized. It was a hunting pattern, a genetic code that told the body how to chase, how to track, how to pursue prey over long distances without stopping. Vel had only seen this pattern in one other place, predator species. His hands began to shake. He pulled up the records for the Vorn, the most feared predators in the galaxy. The Vorn were massive creatures with teeth like knives and claws that could cut through metal. They hunted in packs and never gave up once they started chasing something. He compared the hunting pattern in human DNA to the hunting pattern in Vorn DNA. 73% match. Vel stared at the screen. His mind refused to accept what he was seeing. Humans shared more genetic material with the Vorn than any prey species. But that was impossible. Humans were soft, weak. They had no claws or fangs. They could not be related to predators. He ran more tests. He compared human DNA to the Krell, pack hunters who communicated through howls and body language. 61% match. He compared human DNA to the Shade, silent killers who stalked their prey for days. 58% match. Every predator species showed significant genetic similarity to humans. Every prey species showed none. Dr. Vel? Ro asked softly. What is wrong? Your color is changing. Vel realized he had turned pale. His species changed color with emotion, and right now he was showing fear, pure fear. Get me new samples, he said quickly. These must be contaminated. This data cannot be correct. Ro hurried away to contact the human ship. Vel stayed in the laboratory, staring at the results on his screen. His scientific mind was fighting with what he was seeing. There had to be an explanation, some kind of mistake. He looked at the images of the humans again. Ambassador Yuna with her soft smile, Tay with his calm eyes, Hana with her patient expression. They looked so harmless, so gentle. How could they share DNA with the most dangerous predators in the galaxy? Maybe the genes were inactive. Yes, that could explain it. Humans might carry predator DNA, but it might be switched off. Evolution could have changed them over time. They might have predator ancestors, but become peaceful through generations of change. This thought calmed him a little. Genetics was complicated. Just because someone carried certain genes did not mean those genes were active. He would need to do more tests, deeper analysis. Rowe returned an hour later with fresh samples. The humans had been happy to provide more. They had not asked any questions. They had just smiled and offered their arms for the needle. Vel ran the new samples through the analyzer. He checked every step carefully. He made sure there was no contamination. He watched the machine process the data with nervous eyes. The results were exactly the same. 0 matches with prey species, high matches with predator species. Vel sat down heavily in his chair. His legs felt weak. His mind was spinning with questions. How was this possible? What were these creatures really? Why did they look so harmless when their DNA said they were anything but? He thought about the way Yuna had smiled at him, the way she had said, "We have nothing to hide." At the time, he had thought she was being humble. Now he wondered if she had been telling a different kind of truth. Maybe humans did have nothing to hide. Maybe they knew exactly what they were. Maybe they just did not care if others found out. That thought scared him more than anything else. He needed to do more research. He needed to understand what kind of creatures these humans really were. Because right now, his entire understanding of them was falling apart. And somewhere deep in his mind, a small voice was whispering a warning that said these soft, smiling beings were far more dangerous than anyone had ever imagined. Vel decided to keep his findings secret for now. He would not tell the commander. He would not tell the council. Not until he understood more. Not until he knew for certain what humanity really was. He pulled up a new analysis program and began to dig deeper into the human genetic code. The answers were in there somewhere. And he was going to find them, no matter how terrifying they might be. 3 days passed. Vel barely slept. He ate only when Rowe forced food into his hands. His laboratory had become a mess of data screens and genetic maps. Every wall displayed information about human biology. Every surface was covered with notes and theories. The deeper he looked, the worse it became. Vel had started by examining the most basic features of human DNA. What he found shocked him again and again. It was like opening a box that was supposed to contain flowers and finding weapons inside instead. He studied their eyes first. Human eyes faced forward, not to the sides like prey animals. Side-facing eyes gave a wide view of the surroundings. They helped prey animals see predators coming from any direction. Forward-facing eyes were different. They gave depth perception. They allowed accurate judgment of distance. They were perfect for one thing: hunting. Every predator in the galaxy had forward-facing eyes. Every single one. Next, Vel examined human muscle structure. Prey animals had muscles built for quick bursts of speed. They could run fast for short distances, then they were exhausted. Predators were different. They had muscles built for endurance. They could move for hours without stopping. Humans had endurance muscles. Their bodies were designed for something called persistence hunting. Vel had to research this term because he had never heard it before. What he learned made his blood run cold. Persistence hunting was a method where the hunter chased prey over long distances. Not fast, just steady, never stopping. The prey would run and hide, thinking it was safe. Then the hunter would appear again. The prey would run again. And again. And again. Eventually, the prey would become so tired it could not run anymore. Then the hunter would move in for the kill. Humans were built for this kind of hunting. Their bodies could regulate temperature through sweating. They could run for hours in hot conditions that would kill other species. They could track prey across any terrain, over any distance, for as long as it took. Vel found records from Earth, the human home planet. He read about how ancient humans had hunted animals much larger and faster than themselves. They did not use speed or strength. They used patience. They simply followed their prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Then they killed it. No other species in the galaxy hunted this way. It was unique to humans. And it was terrifying. But the worst discovery was yet to come. Vel examined the human brain next. He expected to find a simple organ, perhaps focused on basic survival functions. Instead, he found a highly developed processing center that was unlike anything in his database. Human brains had a huge section dedicated to pattern recognition. They could look at random information and find meaning in it. They could predict behavior. They could plan ahead. They could imagine things that did not exist and then make them real. There was also a large section dedicated to social cooperation. Humans were pack hunters. They worked together in groups, communicating through complex language and body signals. They could coordinate attacks. They could create strategies. They could adapt to any situation. Vel found studies about human warfare. He wished he had not. Humans had spent most of their history fighting each other. They had developed weapons of incredible power. They had created armies of millions. They had burned cities and conquered continents. They had split the atom and built bombs that could destroy entire planets. And through it all, they had kept smiling. They had kept being friendly. They had built art and music and poetry while simultaneously developing new ways to kill each other. This was not normal predator behavior. Normal predators killed for food or territory. Humans killed for ideas, for beliefs, for things that existed only in their minds. They were predators who had turned predation into something abstract, something that went beyond simple survival. Ro found Vel sitting in the dark, staring at nothing. "Dr. Vel, are you well?" Vel did not answer for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was hollow. "Do you know what the most dangerous thing in the galaxy is, Ro?" The assistant shook his head. "It is not size. It is not strength. It is not even intelligence." Vel turned to look at his assistant. "It is the ability to choose, to decide when to hunt and when not to hunt, to have the power to destroy and yet hold back." Ro looked confused. "I do not understand." Vel stood up slowly. His legs were stiff from sitting too long. "Humans are apex predators, Ro, the most efficient hunters their planet ever produced. But they do not act like predators. They act like prey. They are friendly, cooperative, peaceful. Is that not a good thing? No, it is not good or bad. It is something else entirely." Vel walked to one of his screens and pulled up an image of Ambassador Yuna. Her smile seemed different now. Not innocent, not friendly, something else. "It means they are choosing to be peaceful. They have the power to be terrible, and they are choosing not to use it." "Why is that frightening?" Vel turned back to his assistant. "Because choices can change, Ro. What happens when humans decide they no longer want to be peaceful? What happens when someone threatens them or their families? What happens when they stop smiling?" The question hung in the air like poison. Vel had more data to examine. He pulled up information about human adrenaline systems. This was a chemical response that activated during danger or excitement. In prey animals, adrenaline triggered the flight response. It made them run away. In humans, adrenaline did something different. It made them stronger, faster, more focused. It decreased their sensitivity to pain. It increased their aggression. It prepared their bodies not for running, but for fighting. There were stories from Earth about humans performing impossible feats under adrenaline. Mothers lifting vehicles off their trapped children. Soldiers continuing to fight with injuries that should have killed them. Ordinary people becoming extraordinarily dangerous when pushed too far. Vel found one more piece of information that completed the picture. Humans had something in their psychology called stubbornness. It was related to their persistence hunting past. When a human decided to do something, they did not stop. They could not be discouraged. They could not be intimidated. If a human wanted to reach a goal, they would keep trying no matter how many times they failed. They would adapt, they would learn, they would find new approaches, and eventually, they would succeed. It might take years, it might take generations, but they would never give up. This was perhaps the most frightening thing of all, because it meant that if humans ever became enemies of the galaxy, they would never stop fighting. They would never surrender. They would keep coming again and again until either they won or they were completely destroyed. Vel saved all his research and locked it with his personal code. He needed to think. He needed to decide what to do with this information. The Council wanted to know if humans were prey or predators. The answer was neither and both. They were predators who had learned to wear the mask of prey. They were hunters who had chosen to become friends. But beneath that mask, beneath that choice, was something ancient and powerful. Something that had been hunting since before humans could even speak. Something that was waiting, patient and quiet, for the moment when it would be needed again. Vel looked at the image of Una one more time. That smile, those dark eyes. Now he could see what was hiding behind them. He saw a wolf pretending to be a sheep, and he wondered if the galaxy had any idea what they had welcomed into their midst. Tomorrow, he would have to meet with the humans again. He would have to sit across from them and have a normal conversation, knowing what he now knew. The thought made him want to run and hide. But he was a scientist. He would face the truth no matter how terrifying. He just hoped that truth would not be the end of everything he knew. Vel had requested another meeting with the humans. He told them it was for additional observations. Scientific purposes. Just routine work. They agreed immediately, happy to help with whatever he needed. Now he sat in the station's meeting room, waiting for them to arrive. His hearts were beating faster than normal. He tried to control his skin color to stop it from showing his fear. He was a scientist. He had to remain calm, objective, professional. The door opened and the three humans walked in. Vel watched them differently now. Before, he had seen soft creatures walking awkwardly on two legs. Now he saw something else entirely. He saw the way their eyes moved first, scanning the room before their bodies fully entered. He saw how their feet made almost no sound on the metal floor. He saw how they positioned themselves, spreading out slightly so they could cover more area. They were not even aware they were doing it. These movements were automatic, instinct written into their bones over millions of years of hunting and surviving. Captain Tay entered first. He was tall, with broad shoulders and a straight back. His eyes found Vel immediately and held contact. In the animal kingdom, this was a dominance behavior. Prey animals looked away. They showed submission. Predators stared back. Tay stared back. Lieutenant Hana came next. She moved with a quiet grace that Vel had mistaken for gentleness before. Now he recognized it for what it was, the careful movement of a creature that knew how to be silent when needed. Her eyes swept the room in a quick pattern, checking corners and doorways, looking for threats or exits. Ambassador Una entered last. She was smiling as always. But Vel noticed something he had missed before. Her smile never reached her eyes. Her eyes were always watching, always calculating. The smile was just a mask, a tool for putting others at ease. Dr. Vel, Una said warmly, thank you for inviting us. How can we help with your research? Vel swallowed hard. Please sit down. I have some questions for you. The three humans sat across from him at the table. They moved in unison as if they had practiced it. Pack behavior. Vel made a mental note. I have been studying your biology, he began, keeping his voice steady. I have found some interesting things. Oh? Una tilted her head. Like what? Your species has remarkable endurance. Your bodies can function for long periods without rest. Is this common on your planet? Tay answered this time. His voice was deep and calm. Humans can stay awake for days if needed. Our ancestors had to chase animals across great distances. The ability to keep moving was important for survival. Chase animals. Keep moving. The words confirmed what Vel had learned. He pressed forward. And your eyes. They face forward, giving you excellent depth perception. Yes, Hana said. It helps us judge distances, useful for many things, throwing, catching, driving vehicles. Killing, Vel thought but did not say. Throwing weapons, catching prey. He noticed that Hana's hands were resting on the table. They looked relaxed, but her fingers were slightly curved, ready to grab something at any moment. He wondered if she even knew she was doing it. Tell me about your planet, Vel said. Earth. What is it like? Yuna smiled again. It is beautiful. Blue oceans, green forests, mountains and deserts and everything in between. Many different climates and environments. And many different dangers? The three humans exchanged a quick look. It was subtle, lasting only a fraction of a second. But Vel caught it. They were communicating without words, deciding together how to answer. Earth has its dangers, Tay admitted. Large predators, extreme weather, natural disasters. But humans have learned to adapt. More than adapt, Vel said quietly. You conquered those dangers. Your species rose to the top of your food chain and stayed there. Another exchange of looks. This time, Vel saw something like recognition in their eyes. They knew what he was asking. They understood that he was starting to figure things out. Yuna leaned forward slightly. Dr. Vel, is there something specific you want to know? He decided to be direct. I compared your DNA to every prey species in my database. There were no matches. None at all. The room went very quiet. Then I compared your DNA to predator species. There were many matches. Yuna's smile did not change, but something in her eyes did. It was like a curtain being pulled back, just a little. And what conclusion did you reach? Vel's voice came out as barely a whisper. You are not prey. You never were. Everything about your biology says you are predators. Apex predators, the most efficient hunters your planet ever created. The silence stretched on. Then slowly Tay nodded. Yes, he said simply. That is correct. Vel felt his skin changing color despite his best efforts. But you act so peaceful, so friendly. You show no aggression. You make treaties and trade agreements. You smile and shake hands. Hana spoke then. Her voice was soft but carried a weight that made Vel want to lean back in his chair. We choose to be peaceful, Dr. Vel. That does not mean we cannot be otherwise. Humans learned long ago that cooperation brings more benefits than conflict, Yuna added. We can achieve more together than we can alone, so we choose to work with others. We choose to be friends. But beneath that choice, Vel could not finish the sentence. Beneath that choice, we are what we have always been. Tay finished for him. Hunters, survivors. We do not deny our nature. We simply control it. Vel thought about everything he had learned. The persistence hunting, the pack coordination, the endless stubbornness, the ability to keep fighting through pain and injury. All of it was still there, just beneath the surface of these smiling, friendly creatures. What would happen, he asked slowly, if someone threatened your people, your families, your home? The three humans went very still. It was not the stillness of fear. It was the stillness of a predator before it strikes. Do you really want to know the answer to that question? Yuna asked. Her smile was gone now. Her face was calm, but her eyes were something else entirely, something old, something dangerous. Vel found that he did not want to know. He did not want to imagine what humans would do if pushed too far. He had read about their wars, their weapons, their endless capacity for violence when they believed it was necessary. I think, he said carefully, I understand now. Yuna's smile returned, as warm and friendly as ever. Good. Then you understand that we truly want peace. We want friendship. We want to be part of the galactic community. She paused. But you also understand what we are capable of if someone forces us to be something else. Vel understood. He understood completely. He was looking at creatures who had chosen to sheathe their claws, who had decided that kindness was stronger than cruelty, who had built civilizations and created art and reached for the stars, all while carrying the soul of a predator inside them. They were not pretending to be harmless. They genuinely wanted peace, but they were not harmless. They could never be harmless, and anyone who mistook their kindness for weakness would learn that lesson in the worst possible way. Thank you for your honesty, Vel said finally. Tay nodded. Thank you for asking the right questions. Most species see what they expect to see. They see our soft skin and flat teeth and assume we are prey. They never look deeper. I looked deeper, Vel said. Yes, you did. Hana's expression softened. We respect that. Scientists who seek truth are rare and valuable. The meeting ended shortly after. The humans left with polite goodbyes and promises to help with any future research. Vel watched them go, seeing them clearly for the first time, not prey wearing a predator's mask. Predators who had chosen to wear the mask of prey, and somehow, that was far more impressive than anything he could have imagined. Vel sat alone in his quarters, staring at the blank document on his screen. The cursor blinked steadily, waiting for him to begin. His report to the council was due in less than 6 hours. They wanted answers. They wanted to know what humans were. He had the answers now, but he was not sure they were ready to hear them. For 3 hours, he wrote and deleted, started and stopped. Each time he tried to explain what he had discovered, the words seemed wrong. Too alarming, too unbelievable, too terrifying. Finally, he took a deep breath and began to write the truth. Report on species classification: humans, Homo sapiens, origin, Earth, Sol system. This report presents the findings of my biological analysis of the species known as humans. The results challenge every assumption our society has made about these newcomers to galactic space. Initial observations suggested humans were a prey species. They lack natural armor, claws, or fangs. Their physical appearance is soft and vulnerable. Their behavior is cooperative and non-threatening. Every external sign indicated harmless herbivores or timid omnivores. These initial observations were completely wrong. After extensive DNA analysis and behavioral study, I must conclude that humans are apex predators. Their genetic makeup shows zero similarity to any known prey species and significant matches with the most dangerous predators in our database. Humans possess forward-facing eyes optimized for tracking prey. Their bodies are designed for persistence hunting, a method where the predator follows prey across vast distances until the prey collapses from exhaustion. Their muscles are built for endurance rather than speed. Their minds are pattern recognition engines capable of tracking, planning, and coordinating complex group hunts. On their home planet, humans rose to the top of the food chain not through size or strength, but through intelligence, cooperation, and an absolute refusal to give up. They hunted animals larger and faster than themselves. They conquered every environment. They survived ice ages and mass extinctions. They became the most successful predator their planet has ever known. Yet they do not behave like predators. This is perhaps the most important finding of my research. Humans have made a choice. They have decided to set aside their predator nature and pursue cooperation instead. They create rather than destroy. They build rather than tear down. They extend friendship rather than violence. This choice is genuine. My interactions with human representatives suggest they truly desire peace and partnership with other species. They are not deceiving us. They are not pretending to be harmless in order to attack later. But we must understand what this choice means. Humans are not harmless. They can never be harmless. Their predator nature is not gone. It is merely sleeping. It is held back by conscious decision, by cultural values, by the belief that kindness produces better results than cruelty. If that decision ever changes, if humans are ever pushed to abandon their peaceful ways, the galaxy will face a threat unlike any it has known before. I witnessed this potential myself during my interviews with the human delegation. When I asked what humans would do if threatened, the change in their demeanor was immediate and profound. The friendliness disappeared. The smiles vanished. What remained was something ancient and cold, a predator evaluating whether to strike. The moment passed quickly. The humans returned to their warm, cooperative selves within seconds, but I saw what lay beneath, and I will not soon forget it. My recommendation to the Council is as follows: accept human friendship, embrace their desire for cooperation, welcome them into the galactic community, but never, under any circumstances, give them a reason to become what they once were. Humans are predators who have chosen to be peaceful. We should be grateful for that choice. We should do everything in our power to ensure that choice continues. Because if humanity ever decides to go back to what they were built to be, I do not believe any force in this galaxy could stop them. End of report. Signed, Dr. Vell, Chief Biologist, Galactic Research Station. Vell read the report 3 times. Then he encrypted it with the highest security codes and sent it to the Council. He did not sleep that night. He kept thinking about the humans on their ship, docked just a few hundred meters away. They were probably sleeping peacefully, dreaming whatever dreams humans dreamed. They were kind, friendly, genuinely good people. And they were also the most dangerous species Vell had ever encountered. The next morning, the human ship requested permission to depart. Their diplomatic mission was complete. They would return to Earth and report that first contact with the Galactic Research Station had been a success. Vell went to the docking bay to say goodbye. He was not sure why. Perhaps he wanted to see them one last time. Perhaps he wanted to confirm that everything he had written was true. Ambassador Yuna was the last to board the ship. She stopped when she saw Vell waiting. "Dr. Vell," she said with her usual smile, "I wanted to thank you for your hospitality. Your station has been very welcoming." "It was my pleasure, Ambassador." She studied his face for a moment. Those dark eyes seemed to see everything. "You finished your report." It was not a question. She knew. "Yes," Vell said. "I told them the truth." "And what truth is that?" Vell thought for a long moment before answering. "That humans are the most remarkable species I have ever studied. That you have taken everything nature made you, all the hunting instinct and survival drive and predator heritage, and you have transformed it into something better. You chose to be kind when you could have been cruel. You chose to build when you could have destroyed." Yuna's smile softened. For a moment, she looked genuinely touched. "That is a very generous way to describe us." "It is the truth." She nodded slowly. "We are not perfect, Dr. Vell. Humans have done terrible things throughout our history. We have hurt each other in ways that would shock you. Our journey to become what we are now was long and bloody." "But you made that journey," Vell said. "You became better." "We try. Every day we try. Sometimes we fail, but we keep trying." She paused. "That is perhaps the most human thing about us. We never stop trying to be better than we are." She extended her hand. It was a human gesture of respect, Vell had learned. He reached out with his own limb and touched her palm. "Goodbye, Dr. Vell. I hope we meet again someday." "Goodbye, Ambassador. Safe travels." He watched her board the ship. A few minutes later, the vessel undocked and moved away from the station. It turned slowly toward open space, then accelerated. Within moments, it was gone, leaving only stars behind. Vel stood at the observation window for a long time after. The council would receive his report soon. They would read his words and learn the truth about humanity. Some would be afraid, others would be skeptical, a few might understand. But regardless of how they reacted, one thing was certain. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. Those soft, smiling creatures from the small blue planet were not what they appeared to be. They were wolves in sheep clothing. They were predators playing at being prey. And they were, in their own strange way, the most hopeful thing Vel had ever encountered. Because if humans could choose to be better than their nature, then perhaps other species could too. Perhaps the galaxy was not doomed to endless cycles of predator and prey, hunter and hunted. Perhaps there was another way. All it took was a choice. Vel smiled to himself as he turned away from the window. For the first time in days, he felt something other than fear. He felt hope. And he thought that maybe, just maybe, the humans had given him something more valuable than any scientific discovery. They had shown him what was possible when predators decided to become something more.